Right. The international break is here. Madrid are top of La Liga. They just won the derby, and yet, somehow, the fan base is angrier than ever. How does that happen? How do you win and still be this furious?
Tio, because winning the match doesn't fix the system, does it? The comment sections are absolutely on fire this morning. And I mean that in the worst possible way. The mood is not celebratory. The mood is conspiratorial.
And the dominant theme, the thing that's generating the most heat right now, is the media. Fans are convinced that Spanish football's press is not just biased, it's structurally corrupt. One fan put it bluntly, the media are part of the whole operation. Without them, it wouldn't have been possible to hide the Negreira payments for so long, and now to keep the social peace. 63 upvotes on that one.
63. And look, we've talked about the Negreira case before, but what's interesting is how fans are connecting it to the present tense, not just as a historical scandal, but as an ongoing framework. The argument is the press didn't just miss the story, they actively suppressed it. And if they did it then, they're doing it now.
And the CTA validating Munuera's red card against Valverde has only poured gasoline on this. Because fans see it as the institution's closing ranks. The federation, the referees committee, the media, all telling the same story. Another fan literally quoted a line about, "Don't believe what your eyes see, believe what I tell you." Heavy stuff for a football comment section.
Madre mia, but is it wrong though? I mean, we watched that red card. We watched Valverde get 2 bookings that were, at best, debatable. And now the official body comes out and says the referee was correct, and the media reports it as settled. Que barbaridad. You can understand why fans feel gaslit.
I can understand the emotion, absolutely. But I do want to push back slightly on the framework, because the entire media is coordinated against Real Madrid is a very large claim, and sometimes the simpler explanation is just that Spanish sports media has structural incentives to generate conflict and outrage, and Madrid versus everyone is just good content.
Right, but here's what I keep coming back to. The Negreira payments were real. That happened. Barcelona paid a refereeing official for years, and the mainstream press moved on from it in about 3 weeks. If that had been Real Madrid, we would still be hearing about it every single day. That asymmetry is real, Maria.
No, that asymmetry is absolutely real, and I'm not dismissing it. I just think there's a difference between the media has a bias, which is demonstrably true, and every call against Madrid is part of a coordinated conspiracy. One of those is a systemic critique, the other is a rabbit hole. And some of the fan comments are firmly in rabbit hole territory.
Fair. Venga, let's move on, because there is a story that genuinely deserves more attention, and it involves Mbappé. And before anyone says we only talk about Kylian to stir drama, listen to this. The reason Mbappé has been managing a knee issue is apparently because he was examined on the wrong knee initially. The wrong knee, Tio.
Which, if accurate, is an extraordinary medical failure. And it does explain some things. Because fans have been watching Mbappé look labored at times this season and wondering why, and there's been this narrative that it's mental or motivational or tactical. But if there was a genuine physical issue that went undiagnosed for a period because of a basic error, that reframes a lot.
And there were fans this morning who were dismissive. One comment said something like, "You people just need something to talk about, you're always going after Kylian or Vinny," and I get the fatigue, I do. But this isn't manufactured drama. This is a medical story that affects a player we care about.
The fan frustration around Mbappé coverage is real though. There's a sense that every single thing Kylian does gets turned into a referendum on his entire career. He has one quiet game, it's a crisis. He scores, people say it wasn't enough. The standard applied to him is genuinely different to everyone else in the squad.
Although, and I say this as someone who has defended him, that standard exists partly because of the contract he signed and the expectations that came with it. You can't be the highest paid player in the club's history and then ask for the same margin of error as a 20-year-old. That's not how this works.
True, but the knee story does give me genuine optimism for the second half of the season. If the issue is now properly identified and being managed correctly, we might be about to see the version of Mbappé that everyone was expecting in August. And the Champions League quarterfinals are coming. The timing could be perfect.
Vamos. Now, can we please take a moment for Brahim Díaz? Because this story is getting lost in all the noise and it absolutely should not be.
The Brahim Renaissance. It's genuinely one of the most satisfying storylines in the squad right now. We're talking about a player who was a rotation option, occasionally criticized for inconsistency, and who has quietly become someone Arbeloa trusts as a starter and a key contributor.
And it's not just the performances, it's the attitude. The Panenka he scored earlier in the season felt like a statement of confidence, of personality. This is a player who has decided he belongs, and it shows in how he plays. There's no hesitation anymore.
What strikes me analytically is how well he fits this version of Arbeloa's system. He's intelligent positionally. He finds pockets, he combines quickly. He doesn't need the ball glued to his feet to be effective. In a squad with Mbappé and Vinicius demanding wide space, Brahim's ability to operate in tight central areas is actually really valuable.
And the fans who were skeptical of him, and there were plenty, have gone almost completely quiet. Because what are you going to say? The lad is delivering. He's earned it. And in this squad, earning it is not easy.
The La Liga picture is also worth touching on, because while the fan base is furious about refereeing and media bias, the actual table is looking pretty good. There's some fan chatter about Barcelona potentially having the title wrapped up, but when you actually run the numbers on the remaining fixtures, it's not as clear as some are suggesting.
One fan was breaking it down, talking about Valencia's remaining schedule, projecting wins and losses, and basically arguing that the race goes to the final day, which, honestly, I'd rather have that than a title decided in March. The drama is part of it.
The international break is a blessing and a curse here. Blessing because players like Valverde, who's suspended for the next league match, can recover and reset. Curse because it gives everyone 2 weeks to stew in the refereeing discourse and work themselves into a frenzy before the next game.
2 weeks of fan comments, 2 weeks of conspiracy threads, 2 weeks of La Liga Negrera trending every other day. Madre mia. The internet is going to be a very specific kind of chaos.
And we will be here every morning to make sense of it, or at least to make it entertaining. Tomorrow, we're going to dig deeper into the Champions League quarter-final draw and what it means, plus whatever the international break throws at us. Because it's never quiet when Madrid are involved.
Never. Hala Madrid, tío. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Stay loud.